Welcome to the Story in Action podcast. My name is Brandon Flint. I'm the founder of Story Directive. And the purpose of this podcast is to help people understand how to better leverage their content in their businesses to grow. And that's why I'm super pumped to have my guest today, Jon Richards, who is the co-founder of Nomatic. I'm going to call you guys a travel lifestyle brand because I think that's kind of where you're headed.
Yeah.
And they're a great company based in Utah, but have really awesome products, everything from luggage to great camera bags to slings. And now they're launching, I believe, Jon, your own clothing line even, and everything else. So anything travel related, they are a go-to brand that you definitely, if you're not aware of them, you want to check out. So Jon, welcome to the podcast. Super happy to have you here. Can you just start by introducing yourself and kind of a little bit of your background, and we'll dive into kind of a little bit about Nomatic and all that stuff after that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's I think we met at the NAB show, right? Is that the
Yeah.
I was trying to remember how we met. I think we met in an elevator at the airport or something, but
no, it was I was on my way to NAB. I think you guys were all on the same flight and in the airport, and I noticed everybody had Nomatic on, and then I kind of recognized your face from LinkedIn, and I'm like, I swear that's the Nomatic guys. And so we chatted for a minute, but it was kind of fun.
yeah, it's always fun going to those shows and seeing what people are doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of my background, so like you said, I started the company 12 years ago. I guess it's been almost 12 years now, with my cousin Jacob Durham. So we grew up together as kids and ultimately decided to start a business together. It was more of a side hustle just for fun. It wasn't really like us going and getting funding and trying our best to start something. It was more just experimental to see when we start something and what would that look like. And then it's just slowly grown into what it is today. So you defined it really well. It's the way we define it is a brand for people who live life on the move. So it's essentially anyone who's moving. You could be a content creator, you could be a traveler, you could be commuting to work, but like someone who's living life on the move is someone who is building something they're excited about, progressing in their career and just figuring out ways to become the best versions of themselves. So that's what our brand is and what we've built over the last 11 or 12 years. And it's been a wild ride, but yeah, we've learned a ton about content creation and video marketing in the process.
That's awesome. What was I mean, I dove into a little bit of your background. It looked like you went to school. What was your background in education? Briefly, like before we dive into to Nomatic a little bit more.
Sure. I started at BYU after I served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ and then went back to BYU. And at BYU, I studied business management. I changed paths a couple times. I started out in construction management, decided not to go down that path, and then I wanted to go into finance and did an internship there and realized I didn't want to look at numbers all day. And my brain is more creative. And so ultimately did a business management with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. Love the BYU program, love entrepreneurship program, learned a ton from that. About 8 months out of college is when I started Nomatic, but for 8 months I was doing software sales for Bamboo HR. So I was just making 100 calls a day and just trying to close HR people on their software.
Yeah. And then I think after Bamboo, you started a digital marketing agency for a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Nomatic had been running for about 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I think it had been about 1.5 to 2 years. And we hired a guy named Aaron Novak, who was really good at just paid advertising.
Oh, got it.
We kind of cracked the code on Facebook ads. This is the early days back when it was not a lot of people were doing it and not a lot of people had figured it out. And so Facebook and Google were kind of our jam. And a lot of friends that had brands were reaching out saying, hey, how are you guys doing this? How are you?
Yeah.
And we said, well, let's run it for you. And so we kind of started this agency where we were helping other brands run their paid ads. And so our partner on that company started. He was really the one doing all of the advertising. Jacob and I weren't doing anything, but because of the brand Nomatic, we were able to land new clients for him. And so I was doing a
Yeah.
lot of the sales side of that, landed
Oh,
our
cool.
first book of clients there. And then after about 2 or 3 years, Aaron was full time basically doing Maddox Labs is what it was called. And
Yeah.
he was kind of managing Nomatic as a client on the side. Like Nomatic was just one of his clients. And so got to the point where we wanted our advertising in house again. So Aaron bought us out of the company. He just decided to go full time on the agency, and
Oh, nice.
he's still running that business today. But Jacob and I exited that. I think it was like 2016 or 2017. I can't remember what the dates were, but
Yeah.
so yeah, we haven't been involved with the agency for a while, but we did learn a ton about Facebook and Google and just video advertising in general.
Yeah. Was just out of curiosity, back so this was early days, were you guys doing a lot of video ads on Facebook at that time, or was it primarily photos?
Fifth in 2014, it was just photos. 15 was mostly photos, and then when we launched a travel bag in 16,
Yeah.
that's when it kind of started shifting to video because we had
Yeah.
built these Kickstarter campaigns, and so we had these really compelling videos, where we're showing off features of the bags and stuff, and so we started running those, and the videos actually started outperforming the still images, and
Yeah.
so we ran with video ads for a long time.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, because yeah, that was probably right on the cusp was when you could really start leveraging video for better advertising purposes. So no, that's cool.
We got. I mean, it's kind of like the shiny object syndrome, right? Like we started Nomatic, and then all of a sudden we're like, dude, we could run a marketing agency, and then we're like, we
One
could
hundred
start a
percent.
fulfillment warehouse, and we could start. And we started like 5 businesses back then. Honestly, we even had like a full like we had 2 or 3 other brands we were running on the side that were like a standing desk company, and we
Oh
got involved
wow.
in a shoe company for a while, and like we got very distracted, and then we realized if we just focused all this energy on building Nomatic, we could go a lot further, a
Yeah.
lot faster. And so
Yeah.
we kind of handed off or sold out of the other things we were involved with, and then just started focusing on Nomatic full time since then.
Yeah, I mean, that's a smart play. It's good that you saw that because I think that's a temptation for a lot of people. They start seeing, oh, we could do this, do this, do this, and then, but you really can only focus and do, one or two things really well. So I think that's good advice. So what was, kind of going back to the idea behind Nomatic, how did that idea come to you? What was the first product that you guys did? I guess maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, it's not as exciting as you would think. I wish I was like, oh, we solved this really cool pain point that everyone is having. Like honestly, our research and development was pretty boring. It was basically what's performing really well on Kickstarter because that was the
Oh,
platform we
interesting.
were using to launch all of our products initially. And if
Yeah.
we could get a good launch there, then we could get the traction to move forward. So the very first product was a wallet. It was a like a minimalist pull tab wallet.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've got one right here, but you essentially just pull this little tab and then it
Yeah.
ejects your credit cards out.
Oh, okay.
So that was our first product and we were like, okay, maybe we're a everyday carry brand for people who want to, carry gear with them every day. And so we launched a notebook. I have one of those here too I could show you, but it's
Yeah.
basically just how can you make the notebook slightly more innovative? You create a little spot for a pen and you add
Oh,
another
interesting.
elastic or something to make it functional. And so then we just started iterating on products to make them cooler. And then we got to bags and realized bags were doing really well. So we launched a travel bag on Kickstarter. That was our first product. It's called a 40-liter travel bag. And we essentially just took the dimensions of a carry on and tried to make that as functional as possible. And we didn't really have any rules. So, we were not really bag designers or had no experience in that. So we just started adding water bottle pockets inside of it and zippers inside of zippers. And it was like, it became kind of this like go gadget bag that had a ton of different features. And that's what I think what kind of sold it is there was this kind of a place for everything and lots of stuff to talk about that was new and exciting. And so that travel bag went on to raise like, I think it was close to $3 million in a
Wow.
60-day window. So it did like
No way.
1.5 on Kickstarter and then another 1.5 on Indiegogo within 60 days. And so, I mean, that was like as much revenue as we had done to date in the company in like 2 years, and we did it in 60
Yeah.
days. We're like, all right, let's focus our efforts on bags.
Yeah.
Then of course we did the most like basic ones, you know, you got your backpacks and your messenger bags. And then we got into the luggage space eventually with the 4-wheel roller bags. And then now we've, like you said, we've kind of transitioned to like, all right, we're more of a travel brand now. We create bags for travelers. And so
Yeah.
then obviously an easy path was just to launch travel apparel. And so we create apparel for travel now too. And so, yeah, that's kind of the transition of how the brand got to where it is and why we launched the products we did. Honestly, it wasn't in the early days, there wasn't a ton of market research. It was more just like, what's gonna crush it on Kickstarter? And that's what
Yeah.
we based it on.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It seems like there was kind of a pivot. I don't know. I was from the outside. I remember when you brought on Peter McKinnon, like that the Peter McKinnon collaboration. At least for somebody like in the camera, you know, that was like focused on camera bags. That was like all of a sudden Nomatic was like becoming a pretty popular bag like for people in anybody that was carrying around a video or photo camera, you know, any cameras. What was how did that collaboration come about, and did that how did that play into the business side of things?
Yeah. That was honestly, that was like kind of a combination of luck and just kind of you know who you know kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
we were in Canada researching warehouses for shipping. We weren't even there like to try to meet Peter. And at the time we were talking with Space Station. I don't know if you know Sean Holiday, but
Oh yeah.
he's one of the founders of Space Station and he's one of our good friends. And so I was just texting with him and he's like, "Hey, would you guys want to meet up with Peter McKinnon while you're there in Canada and just go to lunch? He's, you know, he's close to where you are." So we're like, "Sure." So we, you know, got an Uber to some coffee shop and we walked in and I have no idea how big he is. I mean, I think I like
Yeah.
looked him up right before, was like, "Dude, he has like 2 million YouTube
Yeah.
subscribers." So I was like,
Yeah.
"This could be interesting." But he was at the time he was like climbing fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So anyway, that collaboration was just very interesting because we sat down with him in that coffee shop and he's like, "I've been approached by, you know, Think Tank, Canon, Low Pro, like all these brands have
Yeah.
hit me up. They want to make a bag with me, but I don't
Yeah.
want to do it with these big corporate brands. I want to do it with you guys." He had already purchased some of our bags and he's like, "I love
Oh
your
no
bags.
way.
Why can you not make camera bags?"
No
And we're
way.
like, I guess we can. Like if you're wanting to do it with us, let's go. We started that process and we had never made a camera bag before. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve there, but it took us about 18 months to dial in that first bag. We focused on travel again because that's kind of what we do best. And so we made like the best travel bag for cameras we could, which included a section for packing clothes and
Yeah.
tried to make it feel unique and bomb proof and like super durable and all the things that we normally do. And Peter loved it and the audience loved it. I think it raised like 1.7 million in that first Kickstarter or maybe it was 2.2 million. I can't remember the numbers, but it was a big campaign. And Peter, of course, drove a ton of that value because we didn't have an audience for photographers.
Yeah.
But there was a secret like unlock that happened that I didn't realize. Like when you make camera bags, you now have customers that make really high quality content and
Yeah.
are always taking pictures of your bags and are always posting about it. So like we went from not having a ton of like user generated content to having
Yeah.
like more than we can ever repost overnight.
Yeah.
So
Or use. Yeah.
just constantly there's just this flow. Like the biggest struggle in our brand right now is how do we come up with travel related content that's not camera focused
That's not
because
comment. Yeah, I was gonna
camera
say
is only like 20% of our current customer
overall
base, you know?
business. Yeah.
So it's a smaller portion of what we're selling, but it's like, it's hard not to post all the really awesome camera content we're getting.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's yeah, that it would be a good byproduct of getting into the industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. What do you uh, in your mind? What sets Nomatic apart from like a lot of the other brands in your industry? Because there's obviously a lot of luggage brands, right? There's a lot of travel brands. There's high end stuff, low end stuff. What do you think has set Nomatic apart from a lot of those other companies?
Yeah, I think the two things our customers are telling us. like I have my opinions about it, but I think what the customers say is probably the truth, and that's they tell us that Nomatic is a brand known for just super high quality,
Yeah,
super durable products that you can just count on, and you know they're going to work when you need them to. And I think that's what sets us apart is we take a lot of time, like, you know, for us to develop a brand new product, it's anywhere from 18 months to we have some lines that have taken us 3 or 4 years to design. So
yeah,
it's a process where we literally look at every detail, we test it beyond probably what we need to. We are constantly iterating and trying to make things to make them better, and I think that's what sets us apart. We're not trying to just throw our logo on a random bag and just like get it out to market as fast as possible. It's making sure that it's totally dialed before we launch it, and then if it gets out there in the world and we get feedback, we improve it and make it even better. And so I think that's probably
yeah.
what sets us apart is when you buy Nomatic, you know you're going to get something that you can trust and that will last a long time and perform exactly how you need it and want it to. That's probably the biggest differentiator.
Yeah. And what, just out of curiosity, because I'm curious, what do you think sets it apart aside from that? Because I'm always interested because there's always a little bit of what we think as owners of a business and then our perception and what we actually are seen as. It's kind of interesting sometimes. What do
Yeah, it
you?
is. I'm still trying to learn that because I tend to insert a lot of my own personal bias onto things,
Yeah.
and I think that innovation and function matters probably way more than it does. So when I'm
Yeah.
designing a product, I look super closely at like how can we make this extremely innovative? Like that Peter McKinnon one is a good example of this. When we created that bag, we created an entirely an ignorant bag that fit inside of this travel bag. So it was basically a camera cube, but then
Yeah.
you could take it out and it would expand and become a backpack. So for me, like that feature alone, I'm thinking through, okay, how are photographers using this? Like they're taking this massive bag to their destination and then they
Yeah.
want to go do this quick shoot somewhere and they
Yeah.
just need to carry their camera and their one lens. They don't need like all of their other gear that they brought with them. How can we create a bag that allows them to just like run and gun rather than having to carry
Yeah.
this 40-pound bag full of all their camera gear on their back? And so
Yeah.
that product for me was like, that's a game changer. And I think a lot of people love that. So now they have it's almost like two in one bag, right? Like
Totally.
so that's an example of one where I'm like, I think those are the kind of things that sell products. I think ultimately the customers, when they're telling their friends like, here's what I love about this, they're often
Yeah.
saying like, oh, it's very durable, like it feels
Yeah.
super premium, it's gonna
Yeah.
last forever. Those are the kind of things they're telling us, which I think is good feedback. But I think a lot of the magic of what gets them to buy initially is seeing these unique features that make it different and feel unique.
No, I agree. I think I would agree with that. I think that's also what I've seen from the outside about Nomadic is that you guys are really try to be innovative in, like you said, just not putting. I mean, I think the temptation probably would have been really easy to just slap Peter McKinnon's face all over some random camera bag and just hope that it sold. It probably would have still sold pretty well, just
Yeah.
because he has such a huge following. But you guys didn't do that. You took the time to really innovate and make something that was unique and in that industry, which I thought was awesome. So, and yeah, to your point, it is premium. It feels really solid. It's a great bag. Yeah, that's a great intro and background on to kind of how it got going and kind of what you guys are doing now. Maybe like now, if we could talk a little bit about what role. I mean, how did you guys? How are you guys? You talked a little bit about the importance of that transition from photo. So my background, I started out as a stills photographer 20 years ago, and then saw the increase. I mean, I always worked in active lifestyle brands and that kind of stuff and travel and stuff. And I saw this like pivot happening with video coming on and all of a sudden you could use video on ads like you talked about. You could use video online and all of a sudden and then all of the social platforms were pivoting to focus not on stills but to video. I saw that with Instagram and then obviously with TikTok and all that stuff, but it's all video focused now, and that's just because that video is just a far more engaging platform. Stills are still important, but the what you can leverage emotionally and the storytelling that you can do with video is pretty awesome. Before the collaboration with Peter, how were you guys doing that? Did you guys have an in-house team? Did you guys use an agency? Were you using freelancers? How were you guys kind of using those tools to brand and Nomatic and grow the business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Let's see. So, when it comes to video and storytelling, we got really lucky early on. We hired a guy named Tyson Henderson. He
Cool.
owns Tyson Media now, and he was formerly at Devon Supertramp. So, anyone who's ever been in YouTube for a long time knows like Devon was one of the OG guys to go
Yeah,
viral. They were doing like those rope swings in Utah
yeah,
where like, getting tens of millions of views, and no one was really doing that before, like this wild, crazy lifestyle.
yeah,
So when we found out Tyson was the guy behind the camera a lot of the time, we gave him an offer to come work for our brand, and he took it, which was super exciting because having an in-house video guy changed our business in a really big way. Before that, we would hire a freelancer that I knew from Bamboo HR,
yeah,
and he would just make the videos when we needed them and charge us per video, and that's it.
yeah,
Like, but when you have someone who's literally creating video all the time and that's all they're thinking about 24/7, it elevated our brand significantly, especially because his quality of work was so good
yeah.
and he could crank. Like, I've never, to this day, still have never met a video guy that can produce as fast and as efficiently as Tyson.
No way.
And so he
That's
he
awesome.
just he just gets it. He knows exactly what needs to happen and how to pull it off. And so he
Yeah,
was just so like he literally made all of the product walkthrough videos. He made all of the like hero videos for all of our new launches. He was making social media content. He was making like we even did a whole series where we had like different entrepreneurs that we were highlighting and traveling the world with them and stuff. And so we've done a ton of different video projects. Some of it has worked really well, some of it hasn't. But having that person in house was huge.
yeah,
And then unfortunately, like what always happens is we like with the agency, that the marketing agency and with Tyson, like each of these guys, they get so good at their craft. And because they're building with our brand, they're able to get so much attention
yeah,
outside of our brand and land a bunch of new clients. And then of course it's kind of like, I should be doing this on my own. And so, you know,
um,
the agency side we sold off, and then same thing with Tyson. He's like, I'm just going to start. He's like, guys, I'm making more money outside of Nomatic than I am inside of Nomatic. So
yeah,
of course, like it makes perfect sense why he left, but he started
yeah,
his agency full time and he's crushing it. And so now we're kind of I guess you could say we're in a way we're a client of his agency still, but he
yeah.
has one guy, Braden Powell, that's super talented, that is just dedicated to focusing on our brand, and he makes
Cool.
all of our video content now. So we kind of like to have a dedicated video guy on the team that's
Yeah,
focused on us, and I think that's made a big difference in terms of like what's worked well. I think having like maybe it's less so now, and I'm talking from like this is years of experience, but I feel like the video game is changing so fast right now with AI and everything and all these short
yeah,
form platform content. Like, but even in the last 5 years, like having a hook on a video in the first 3 seconds was crucial. And so we would always just try to get super creative and brainstorm. All right, okay, this time I'm hitting luggage off of the roof with a sledgehammer. Let's see if we can, like, in the first 3 seconds, you're seeing me holding a sledgehammer about ready to smash the luggage. And it's like, those are the type of hooks that I think helped our videos do well, is just kind of thinking outside the box. Because if you're
yeah,
sitting behind the camera and just like, hi, I'm Jon, the founder of Nomatic, and we make this cool luggage. Like, swipe,
yeah,
people don't care. It's not important. But like these days, you have to grab attention. It's probably down to like 2 seconds now, honestly. Like, you
yeah,
have to grab attention so fast. And if you
yeah,
don't, then it's not really, your videos won't perform as well. So
yeah,
we're constantly trying to be creative there and test new things. And a really fun project I did a year ago was short form content. So we had never like gotten really good at creating our own short form content that we were posting all the time. In
yeah,
fact, when I met you at NAB, that
yeah.
was the trip that we recorded 30 videos in one day. And from those videos, we got like well over 20 million views.
No way.
Yeah. So that
Wow.
that was a very fun test. So we hired a guy named Luke Yates, he's like this bodybuilder that makes fun content. Really
Yeah,
awesome guy. Super good behind the camera and it just knows like how to have a good hook, how to say the right things, how to
Yeah.
keep it short and interesting. And so, on that trip, like we started in the morning before we left in the airport, and then we filmed all day long until we were like leaving the airport. And in
Yeah.
that short window, we were able to crank out like, I think, yeah, maybe it wasn't 30, maybe it was more like 20, but there's 20 to
Like,
30 videos that we cranked out. And yeah, we had multiple videos getting the millions of views. One video got over 15 or 18 million views total across all platforms, which is crazy. It's like there's definitely something there, and I wish our brand had captured that more. But same thing, like Luke got popular on his own channels, and he started doing it full time as a career for himself. And it was like, dang it, like he left us. And so you get these really talented people, you show them that it's possible, and then they spread their wings and fly. And that's just the history, I guess.
how are you tracking, just out of curiosity, how are you tracking all of that stuff when you say across all platforms? What platforms are you guys using mostly now? And sounds like it's all short form. How are you tracking all of that stuff?
Yeah, so to be clear, we haven't done a ton of short form stuff recently. We did for about 6 to 8 months. We had a social
Yeah.
media guy on our team that was creating their own content and posting, and some of it did okay. I think the thing that I would ask you, because you're probably in this more, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, is when you say what platforms, we were doing Instagram, YouTube
Hmm.
Shorts, TikTok, and Facebook. So it's just the big four,
Okay.
I guess, is
Just the
what we
socials.
call them.
Yeah.
And we would post similar videos on all four channels.
Hmm.
And the very first video we saw go viral was on Facebook. It got 250,000 views or something. And that was the first
Yeah.
time that we're like, okay, like this is possible. And
Yeah.
then I created all those videos. We posted them, and we had the most success on Instagram and TikTok. And then we had one on YouTube that blew up.
Yeah.
And so because like so we really had a viral video on every platform at one point or another. I mean, Facebook 250K views is not too much, but there was a lot of
Yeah.
engagement on that post. And so the question I would have for you that we never were able to figure out, and it's the reason we kind of let this go and this strategy go, is because the attribution is impossible. Like we cannot pinpoint to say, okay, this video
Yeah.
that did 18 million views, how much
Yeah.
revenue did that drive? Because the videos that did the very best for us were ones that I didn't talk specifically about the brand. It was more a generic video like, I'm going to sneak this water bottle through TSA security and see if I get flagged, right? So like those were the videos that
That's funny.
that were going viral. But Nomatic's in the video because you're seeing our bag and it says Nomatic, like
Yeah.
Nomatic's the channel that's posting it. So I always
Yeah.
wondered
No,
like,
that's
how can you measure the impact of these videos?
no, and that's a great question. I mean, honestly, that's like where the rubber meets the road on all your video marketing efforts. And it's actually something that I ran into with our clients as well, because we would go out, same kind of same situation. We're creating great content, creating great, really awesome stills, really great videos. In my mind, we're killing it. And a lot of times they were seeing good engagement. But then that's the question that everybody has, is how do I know if it's working to drive actual results for our business, right? And so I ended up, kind of long story short, a couple of years ago, kind of really just, I kind of came to the point where it's like, if I don't figure this out, I don't know how I can really keep pushing this. You know what I mean? In my mind, I want to create value to our clients just like you guys are, you know what I mean? And so it was like, so that really was like kind of where the rubber meets the road, because our clients were coming back and saying, well, this is awesome. Either one of two things: we don't know where to put it or how to leverage it, right? Which was one part. The other part was, which it sounds like you guys didn't have that issue, but the other part is how do we know it's working? And so I ended up hiring a consultant out of the UK that really taught me how to implement proper video tracking for our clients, which has been awesome. And that was pretty game changer, actually, because using UTM links and Google Tag Manager, you can track all of your videos on and off your website and then tie them all back into Google Analytics and see which videos are performing and which videos are actually driving people to the website. And then from there, you can track and see if they are purchasing something or something like that. So you can it kind of closes that loop of, yeah, to your point, like, yeah, so we got 250,000 views on this video. Did anybody actually go buy a bag? It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did they actually? And that's really that's the only way I know personally how to do that is, and it actually is pretty awesome though. When you get it set up properly, and you're making sure that you're using all of your UTM links properly and you're tracking everything properly, and then you figure out what that conversion event is on analytics, it'll actually tell you, you know, out of all of the videos that you have out there, either on your website, off your website, these are how many people actually went and actually bought something, or it would be buying something for you guys. For other clients, it's like submitted a inquiry, or, you know, did this thing that actually we can measure and say that this video was actually generating the vast majority of, because sometimes it's weird too, because sometimes it's not the videos that are getting the crazy amount of views that are actually driving the amount that are actually driving more business for our clients that we think it is. But that's what's so great about having those metrics to look at, because then you're not guessing. It kind of takes out that guesswork of like, because you know how it is. I mean, you're spending a lot of time, effort, money to get good content and get engaging content. Then you're paying to put it out there. You know, there's a heavy investment, and you need to know kind of what that ROI is. And so this is the way that's the way we do it for our clients. And it's pretty awesome. Like the first time I saw it, I was like pretty blown away, because I was like, holy cow, you can actually see what's happening. And you're not guessing like, well, that one got a lot of views, so that must be working. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's just a cool video and people like to watch it, but it doesn't mean that it's actually your target market. It's not your target audience. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to go and look up your website or go to a place to buy or something. But so that's kind of what we're doing at Story Directive for our clients. And it's pretty new, honestly, like, but it's been awesome to see like, hey, this is actually working, or this isn't working. And it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out of understanding where to put your investment, you know, like, and how to, and your efforts. So that's been pretty transformative for us as a business and for our clients, because then we can just sit down and pull up analytics and generate some custom reports and look at it that way, instead of just like, because it's an interesting thing, because also from the creator standpoint, from a content side, it's getting easier and easier to create great content, right? Like that barrier to entry is coming down, and you know, you can create viral videos with your phone now. You don't need a big setup or anything like that. And so there's this interesting thing, and some things that look more UCG sometimes perform better than really polished professional stuff, you know, and then other stuff that, so with our clients, we're always telling them you kind of need a mix of both. You kind of need some like high-end brand imagery, but then you also, there's some of like for social and stuff, some of the stuff that performs better is actually the, you know, kind of the little bit rough, less polished stuff that's maybe feels a little bit, well, it does feel more relatable to the viewer, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know, is that helpful?
it is helpful. We've spent a ton of money with attribution platforms like Rockerbox and others, and
Yeah,
tried to get to the bottom of this. And I can't remember the name of this platform, but there was one that tried to attribute exact revenue dollars to each video. And what we were seeing based on the UTM tracking you're talking about is what we've seen is that Facebook and Google, I should say Meta and Google, are always over reporting the amount
on
of
their metric.
value. Yeah,
Yeah,
because when you get a video like the one I was telling you about that gets 18 million views, you're now being seen by so many people that if any one of those people goes and buys, they may not even have realized that video of us sneaking a water bottle was actually the brand that they were about to buy
yeah,
from. Like they
yeah,
could have just seen us on another Facebook ad, or they maybe had a friend tell them about it and they just go buy. So it's tricky because in a big way, like Facebook and Google's kind of steal the attribution from all these other platforms, and you really just don't know how
yeah,
much value you really are getting from those. But you're right. The one thing that I 100% agree with you on is some videos perform better than others in terms of converting people to actually go buy and spend dollars, because
yeah.
there was some videos we posted that were, like that water bottle one. And then there
Mhm.
was some where it's like, here's my go-to packing setup. It's showing
Yeah,
luggage, it's showing me put packing cubes in. And as we ran ads and push content and views to those videos, like we noticed a lot of more people were buying packing cubes and adding those to their their
Yeah.
checkout and stuff. So like the
Yeah.
videos have different uses for sure. And if you're talking directly about products, it's always going to sell better than if you're just talking about nothing and talking about something silly. But there's this brand
Yeah.
value too. Like we built, like our audience, our following never grew as fast as it did during that window. Like if we had kept that up for a year or 2 or 3 years, we'd have hundreds of thousands of followers more across all platforms. And what's the value of that too? Like
Yeah. That's the
there's
tricky
other
thing.
external values that you can't really track to say,
Yeah.
okay, now our posts are always going to do better because we have this bigger following that's watching and liking and
Yeah.
commenting. So
Yeah. I
there's
mean,
yeah, a
yeah,
bunch of stuff.
it's an interesting thing because in our experience, and to clarify, like most of our clients, at least for my business, are more service based. We don't do a lot of product brand companies, but so the conversion events are a little bit different, but that kind of stuff. But yeah, but to your point, I mean, I think generally speaking, that's the individual platforms are always going to kind of I think overshow the benefit of what you're getting in your investment because they want to
Yes.
keep you on
They
there.
want to keep you there. They want you more spend more dollars.
They want to say, "Oh yeah, look at all this and look at all this," because we've seen that even like it'll say like Facebook will say this, and then YouTube will say this, and then you look at the actual UTM, you look at the actual video tracking itself through analytics, and it is different. And so, but yeah, I mean, but that said, there is value in brand building also, right? Like it doesn't always have to be tied to necessarily a purchase or something like that. You kind of need both, right? I think your pain point is a pain point that is a point of frustration for anybody that's trying to run ads, trying to understand how they investment into their marketing efforts is working. Is it paying off? Are we wasting? I mean, I think everybody's had the experience too, where you just go through and burn a bunch of money and nothing really happens.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one more piece that we haven't tested. Well, I guess I've tested a little bit, but I'm curious to do it more, and that is like founder generated content. So
Yeah,
there's this piece of brand where it's like, okay, everything you're posting is from the brand, but then there's a lot of creators I'm watching that are posting on their personal channels. Like it'd be like me
yeah,
posting on my Instagram, and I'm
yeah,
talking about Nomatic and how much I love it. And I've heard that can work really well for brands to do this where they'll actually generate more revenues through their founders channels than they will through
I mean,
their
yeah,
personal brand channels, right? Like so I do
yeah,
it through LinkedIn quite a bit. That's like the only platform I'm posting on personally, but like I've
yeah,
explored this idea of what if I over the next year, what if I try to like create a fun viral channel where I'm like, I'm going to try to sell our bags to every tech company in Utah or whatever. And I'm just
yeah,
knocking
yeah,
doors, filming content of me like joking with all these founders and trying to get them to buy our bags and doing silly things to get them to buy our bags. And I'm like, something like that could go totally viral and get us a ton of
yeah,
business if I was to be posting that type of content. But it takes a lot of time and energy. You've got to have someone who's willing to be behind that camera and
yeah,
editing those videos all the time. And
yeah.
it's a hard person to find, and it's an even harder person to keep.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think in the era that we live now, my personal belief is that people want to understand who they're doing business with. And I think brands that do a good job, and I actually think you guys do a great job. And maybe that's because I just follow you a lot on LinkedIn, but like I think you do a good job of kind of making Nomatic not a brand that's cloaked behind a logo, but like that you get to know and understand and kind of relate to. And I think that that's the power of what like this kind of the brand story and the personal storytelling kind of can really help brands become more authentic and relatable is when they use people like yourself. Like, yeah, we founded this brand and this is what we set out to do. And and we're really happy with what's happening and where we're going. And, people just like to see that. And because it makes more, and what we see with our clients is that it helps brands be more relatable and more authentic. And that's what people like these
Yeah,
days. They don't like kind of the mystery
the
brands
polished.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, that everything's super polished, and because everybody knows that that's not realistic, right?
right.
So yeah, no, that's awesome. I guess where are you headed with Nomatic now? Maybe to finish things up, like where are you guys trying to? What's your goals now? And I saw that I saw you recently made it into Costco, which you were pumped about, which I thought was awesome. So you seem to be growing. Is the new clothing line kind of the focus, or what's the focus moving forward for you guys?
Yeah, I mean it's been a whirlwind these last couple months because you have these highs and these lows. Like we got into Costco, which was a huge win, and we're testing that in 100 different stores on the West Coast here, and pretty much everything is sold through, which is awesome. Like it means next year it could go much bigger with that program, and we're hoping
Yeah,
they'll consider us for like a full nationwide rollout kind of thing. So obviously that could be a huge account for us. So that's super exciting. And then on the flip side, like the tariffs impacts have been real, very, very real for us this year. We
yeah.
probably saw an $800,000 burden hit us this year from just the
Wow.
increased tariff pricing that we
Wow.
have to cover now out of we're basically financing it as a company. And then the hardest part is you have to pass some of that on to the customer because we can't if we continue
Yeah.
operating how we are, we have no margin at this point, right? So of
Yeah.
course, a couple months ago, we raised our prices, which hurts everyone because now they're more apprehensive to buy when a bag is,
Yeah.
$20 to $40 more than it was the day before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really tricky. Like we're trying to manage that because it's like the business demand is there. It's just people are a little bit less likely to buy now that our bags are even more expensive than they already were. Like our bags
Mm,
already were a premium price, and
price
so
point.
we're
Yeah.
trying to manage that. And so what it ended up doing is it slowed overall sales this year. And so now we have all this inventory that we need
Uh,
to sell for Q4 that we have all our cash sitting in. So the last 2 months have been like literally the day I posted that Costco post, like the following weeks were some of the hardest weeks I've ever had in this business where we've
no
just been
way.
like trying to figure out how to get through the next 2 months until Black Friday hits
Yeah.
with not having cash in the business because we have all our cash sitting in our inventory. And so we started our Black Friday sales now and we're starting to see that come back, which is great. And the hope is that we can just crush it for Q4. But it's always like I forget October. October is always like the worst month of the year because everyone's holding their dollars until Black Friday because they know they're going to get a
Yeah.
deal.
Yep.
So yeah, we've had ups and downs for sure, and the last month has been really rough. And we're finally, I think we've turned a corner now where it's like everything's okay. Like I can remind myself, like we're gonna make it through this. We're gonna
Yeah.
stay in
That's
business. But
stressful.
sometimes I'm like, oh, man, this is extremely stressful. And so when you
Yeah.
have those moments, you start to like reflect on, okay, apparel, is that where our business needs to go, or is it just creating a ton of distraction and SKU
Mhm.
proliferation where we now have thousands of SKUs we're dealing with all the different sizes and the different colors. So it added a lot of complexity to our business over the last year and a half to introduce
Yeah.
apparel. And the
Mhm.
question is like, do we do more seasonal drops? Do we do more like evergreen apparel that we always have on in stock on our site? So we're just
Yeah.
trying to manage
Trying to
like
figure that out.
yeah, trying to figure those kind of things out. So I don't
Yeah.
really know if apparel will to your question, I don't know if apparel will be the future of Nomatic that we hoped it would be just because of how difficult it is. I think we'll still exist in the apparel space in the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of refocused our efforts more on just travel bags, like making
Yeah.
the best travel bags that we possibly can. There's still quite a few we haven't made. Like you think about our biggest competitors, like Peak Design or
Yeah.
Cotopaxi or these other brands that are like, if you look and watch what people are traveling with now, like there's a lot of these more like soft, like packable bags that we've
Yeah.
never explored because we always do more like formed, like with foam in the walls and make them
More rigid.
structured.
Yeah.
We could do a whole collection of bags that are much softer. I think that could do really well because that's a big part of the market we haven't touched. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if we focused more on that. We haven't done bags for women yet, which we've been working on in collection there for a really long time. Just bags that are dedicated for women who travel. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of room we can explore still in the bag space. I think that's probably where our brand will go in the future. And then in terms of apparel and other things, we'll just have to see
See kinda how that
how
shakes
it
out.
goes. Yeah.
Do you guys see, I mean, yeah, as a product business, I'm sure you're much more impacted obviously by the tariff situation. Is there a kinda light at the end of the tunnel, with that, what's happening, or is it still kinda all over the place? What are you guys hearing, and what are you guys hoping happens? in the next, ideally, like ASAP, right, to get that fixed.
Yeah, it's still all over the place. In fact, we were taking advantage of this thing called the 321 de minimis law. And that's why we were doing all of our shipping. That's why we were shipping out of Canada and Mexico. And we found ways to essentially avoid all tariffs just based on
Well,
shipping items that are under $800 in value across the border. Yeah, you could do that tariff free previously, and it was totally legal. But now
yeah.
they got rid of the de minimis law. So now we
Oh,
have all this product that's sitting out internationally that we're trying to figure out. Okay, do we import all of this and pay
bring
the
it back
tariffs on it?
out.
Do we wait and see if de minimis comes back? Because a lot of it we have to use for sales and other things. So
Yeah,
we're we're kind of playing this game of like it's definitely a checker, like a chess match right now. Where we're trying to say
yeah,
what's going to happen in the future, and we're trying to project it out, but you really don't know. I mean, I've heard everything from it's going to get worse to like they're going to refund it all and it's going to go back to better than it was before. And I'm like, well, like
yeah,
as a business owner, the hardest thing is you just don't know what to plan for. And when these changes happen, they can literally put you out of business because of the
yeah,
impact of you just don't
yeah.
have $800,000 sitting around that you can fork out to afford all of that. So I don't
No,
know. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know where it's going to go in the future. But I would say generally, we're feeling really good about our products made in the Philippines. Pretty good about the products made in Vietnam. We're still a little uneasy about China because it's worse than it was before. It's significantly higher, and so things like our luggage and other things we make in China are significantly more expensive. So we're either
yeah,
going to have to stop producing those or just charge a crazy amount to customers, and
yeah.
that's
That's a
just
tough.
that's it is what it is. But that's where we're at.
Dang. Yeah, I think it's a tough time to be in the product business right now, especially with, like you guys. I think everybody is probably in a similar situation, obviously. So yeah, hopefully you guys, they can find some sort of a resolution there. But yeah, those are real challenges. So I appreciate you sharing. I guess, like, just to wrap things up, any advice that you can give anybody else, in terms of like keys to success that you've found in with Nomatic, or any other businesses that you've found that you would like to share, and any other kind of last words before we wrap things up today? Yeah.
Well, as I've been thinking about a conversation, we talked a lot about content. We talked a lot about building a business, multiple businesses. The biggest thing for me that kind of crosses all those borders, and I think would add value to listeners today, is that action is way more valuable than just deliberating and trying to figure out what's going to be best. And so just going and getting moving and filming and posting and just like putting yourself out there is what it takes to learn what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I think a lot of listeners, especially on podcasts and things like this, they listen to these things hoping to find these golden nuggets where they're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the thing that's gonna change. I'm finally gonna make it if I apply this one thing. It's like, no, honestly, what you need to do is you just need to go do it. Like, go post something right now, even if it feels totally awkward and
Mhm.
uncomfortable, or go like create that product, or go whatever it is that you have always wanted to do. Like, just go do it. And if it fails, you're going to learn 10 times faster than if you had just sat behind a desk just dreaming about doing it one day. And
Mhm.
that's what we've done. And I think that's what's allowed us to create really good products. It's allowed us to create a really good business and really awesome content. Is we got crazy and said, let's just try it and see what happens. And if it fails,
I think
then no one
that's
will see it because it's going to fail. So if it takes
yeah.
off and it does well, then great. We cracked the code, and let's lean into that more. Right.
I think that's awesome advice, and it's something that I sometimes I think, how I want to say it, over my career I've seen that too. Just, you can think about things forever, right? And you can do the pros and cons, and you can, oh, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I try this? Should I try that? But I think your advice is awesome. Just go out and do it, and then see how it works. And if it fails, then great. You're one step closer to figuring out what does work, and what, you know what I mean? And so often, I think within business and within our personal endeavors, also, the tendency is to just sit there and put it off, wait for the maybe the what we perceive to be as the perfect time, When we have more money in the account, when we have this, then we'll do it. Then we'll take action. But I think your advice is so awesome because I think I see that all the time. So doing something is way better than doing nothing. And
Yeah.
even if it's not perfect, it won't be perfect because nothing's perfect the first time we try it, but you will get better at it. And that's just how you grow. That's how you grow personally. I think it's how we grow our businesses and how we progress in general. So I think that's a
Yeah.
perfect way to kind of close things out because I think that's some
Yeah.
of the
And
best
another,
advice you're going to get.
I would say one more thing that's a tangent. It's like similar to that is just
Yeah,
the distraction. Distraction is the antithesis of progress, and I think a lot of people
that's
don't
awesome.
realize that they're just so distracted. They're like, "I want to start a business." It's like, well, you're
Yeah,
spending 10 hours a day or like 10 hours a week on social media. You're spending ten
yeah,
hours a week watching sports. You're spending 10 hours a week,
yeah,
whatever, doing these meaningless things that are adding no value to you. Like stop doing those things and just focus on doing what you want to do for just, I don't know, just a week. Try it out. Like,
yeah,
what would happen if you
100%.
deleted all your social media apps? You would have literally 10 extra hours in a day to go do the thing that you say you don't have time to do. So it's like, I think a lot of
Yeah,
people don't realize the distraction that we all, I even have this too. And I have to remind
all good.
myself constantly, like, what's distracting me right now? How can I,
Totally.
because I'll say it again, but distraction is the antithesis of progress. And you need to figure out a way to delete those distractions so that you can just start and take action, and that will help you progress.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Another way I've heard that explained to me, which I thought was really helpful, was and something that you're either consuming or you're creating, and you can't do both. So you're
Yeah.
either creating something, you're producing, you're creating, you're writing, you're filming, you're doing something that is creating or you're consuming. And if you're consuming more than you're creating, that's a problem. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes because we live in an age where it's just easy to consume content, and we're bombarded all the time with distractions to your point, and it's really easy to just fritter the day away. And then we say, "Oh, I didn't have time." Well, not really. You had lots of
Right.
time. It's just how are you allocating and how are you using that time, right? So, yeah, I think so that's something that I it coincides exactly with what you're saying because sometimes I'm like, what did I create today and what did I consume today? And if I didn't create more than I consumed, then I have to then I reevaluate how I'm allocating my time, and that helps me. And I know when I'm creating more than I'm consuming, I feel more productive and I feel more like I'm moving forward.
Totally.
So, but that's awesome. Well, John, if you don't have any other nuggets of wisdom for us, then I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
No more nuggets over here. You got all the good nuggets from me that I can possibly share. So,
Well, I appreciate your time. It's been awesome chatting with you, getting to know a little bit about kind of what your successes and your struggles with Nomatic have been over the years, because we all deal with them in our own businesses and in our own marketing efforts and in our own efforts to try to be better and grow bigger. So I think it's just awesome to hear kind of what you've been dealing with and going through, and I appreciate your time today. So
of course, thanks for having me.
yeah. And good luck with everything. I'm excited to see kind of what happens with Nomatic because I think you guys are kind of at the precipice of a lot of really great things, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how it all shakes out, whether the clothing line works or the kind of what you guys figure out is the way to go to move forward. But either way, I know it's going to be awesome stuff, so I'm excited to see it. So, but thanks so much, John, for your time today, and I'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Thanks, Brennan.